My name is Jim Carberry. I'm 71 years old. I've been married for 44 years. I have 3 children and 4 grandchildren. I worked 4 years as a high school biology teacher and then 38 years for Carl Buddig Lunch Meats.
How about your educational experiences from getting to that point of working there as well?
I have a BS degree from Benedictine University in biology. I have a master's degree in environmental education from Governor State University. And I have a master's degree in food science from University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. I started work actually over the summer as a part-time job just to earn some money between one school year and the next. And my aunt actually got me the job there. I worked second shift, moving smokehouse trucks from the smokehouse to the blast cooler. Close to the end of the summer, the plant manager asked if I would be interested in starting a QC lab. And I thought about it, talked to some friends, and they thought the change might be good. So I started later in the fall and stayed there for 38 years. The manufacturing at that point in time for Carl Buddig was not that large. There was a first shift of production and just a half a second shift of production. And then the rest of the night was moving cooked product and then cleaning equipment. It was building it from the ground up. At that time, a lot of companies did not have QC jobs or quality assurance, quality control. So it was very new for them. They actually sent me to Texas A&M for 2 weeks for some classes, and then to Athens, Georgia, at the University of Georgia there for class as well. Just a few days class, just to set basic QC, QA type testing. So there were small fat, moisture, protein tests that were being done, salt tests we added. There was a lot of learning for both me and for the company as well. Well, the QC department there started as a recommendation from Dr. Bob Terrell from Texas A&M, who came in, reviewed the production, and recommended that they start that. So Bob Terrell ended up being quite a mentor for me. During my time at Carl Buddig, the company purchased 3 other companies: Old Wisconsin Sausage, Old Wisconsin Swiss Cheese, and CBQ, a barbecue meat company.
Did this bring on more challenges for you with being a QA, and QC like that?
A lot more challenges. And the challenges for each company were different. So I think I had more fun at the Swiss Cheese Company because it involved a lot more food science. It involved areas that I really wasn't well versed in at first. The challenges in that company had to do with meat or milk purchasing, the quality of the cheese, the yield of the Swiss cheese, and over our time with Old Wisconsin Swiss Cheese, we were able to improve almost everything. How we bought the milk, how we made the cheese, how we improved grades of the cheese. It really, for me, it was a lot of fun, more than work. Over the 38 years I was in the food industry, everything changed. Regulations from the USDA changed, customer expectations changed, our own policies, procedures, our own testing, laboratory equipment changed. It was, I think, quite an evolution in the food industry. And for most of those changes, I think today we have a safer food, we have safer workplaces, and we have a cleaner environment as well. Well, originally, when someone realized you were a USDA-inspected meat plant, they had no questions about your quality, how you made the product, the labeling that was part of the product. What happened with customers which are major chains around the United States, they wanted a hand in to see exactly how you were producing it. So there's a system of third-party auditing that developed, where auditors would come in just to look at your plant, meet the people, look at your quality systems, and make sure that they were up to what the chain wanted as far as food safety, labeling, production procedures. They always had some form of R&D,
Right.
always. A lot of it had to do with the owners. This is a family-owned business. They were very involved in all aspects of the production. The sales force always had a say in what was going to be worked on, and they got their orders from their customers, the stores. So the R&D was done with the plant manager, myself, and ownership. Most of it for the first 10 years I was there was the plant manager that did R&D. Later on, it shifted to our own department, where I was involved in that, and we had a small team that did R&D work, along with QC, QA, sanitation, labeling, label approvals. If I can give you just one idea about just the number of tests we ran each year, we ran close to 250 to 300 production tests every year. About 25% of those were for new products. The rest were process improvement tests, new equipment tests, changing formulations to trying to keep costs down. Depending on what part of the food industry you're in, culinology could be 50% of the new product. Others, maybe 75%. In our particular business, we did not have a culinologist on staff. We would call in experts in flavoring and make sure we were on the right track. The barbecue plant, on the other hand, had their own culinologists that worked with sauces, gravies, cooking procedures, and everything went through him in terms of flavor. Absolutely. Flavor houses are, especially in the Chicagoland area, are extraordinary. It's pretty hard to develop a unique flavor on your own. At least we never felt like we were the experts on taste, and even taste that's going to last for the entire shelf life of the product. You have to know about those, the ingredients that are needed, and we did not have that expertise. Over all the years that I've been involved in the food industry, there's always been, at least from my perspective, always wanting to have something that people were willing to purchase, and staying away from ingredients that people did not want to purchase. I can give you one example. In the meat industry, everyone was using MSG in the 70s and into the 80s, and that's totally disappeared. People just did not like to see that monosodium glutamate on the ingredient statement. I think the monosodium glutamate issue also brought up looking for substitutes to bring out the flavor of the products that you're producing without using the chemical. The most rewarding aspect of my job, that's an easy question. I love walking into grocery stores and going to the meat case and looking at products that I had a part in producing, In some cases, I'd find 10 products that Carl Buddig had produced. I'd look at the products, I'd look at the how it was displayed, I would look at the package itself, was the peg hole correct? I'd look at the code dates, I'd look at the lot number that it came from, and I was very proud of being able to produce a product that people were willing to buy. The other aspect of my business was that I was always working with almost everybody in the company, all departments. It's a family-owned business, and they were directly involved in everything. So I worked with the family. I worked with the accountants. I worked with shipping, receiving, production, cooking, cooling, sanitation. I had to know all those people in order to get the test through. I think it's pretty hard to develop a product all by yourself today. I think you really need to have experts in every field. You need to have help from your suppliers to make sure you can actually purchase the raw materials and they can be delivered on time. You need help from production people to make sure the product is made according to the specifications that you've worked out. You need to have people with good science backgrounds in order to make sure the product is what you say it is, so that when it's properly labeled, the customer is going to know what's in the package. Oh, there's lots of challenging aspects to producing foods. Definitely customer expectations. Being able to meet those on time was often very difficult. Cost control was difficult. Shelf life, determining shelf life and then maintaining that shelf life was very difficult. In my own work experience, at one time I was responsible for people working on all 3 shifts. So having to be available for those managers 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, was very challenging. I think working with people has its own challenges. So you have to be able to remember where they are coming from, remember their job responsibilities, remember who they report to, and the expectations that are put on them. So unless you're able to really communicate what you need and understand how what you're asking someone to do is going to affect their job and their responsibilities, it'll be very difficult to get it done and get it done properly unless you really have very good communication with everyone. With Carl Buddig and Company, I often think of that show Undercover Boss, and where the boss, comes in and works in the plant or works at the store for a few days and then announces, "Oh, I'm your boss." That would never happen at Carl Buddig and Company because all the employees knew the owners. They were there every day. They knew them by their first name, and the owners knew the people on the production lines. If there was an issue, they could approach the owners and say, look, our line is running a little slow today because of X, Y, or Z, or we're not getting the help we need from maintenance, and they would be listened to. Our basic package was a MAP, a modified atmosphere package, and in that package you could use nitrogen and carbon dioxide combinations of both depending on the product. The basic package has not changed. However, the net weight, the size of the package, the sealing of the package, whether it's a zipper, a slide lock, and then the outer package, the tubs, the size of the tubs, those things have all changed depending on the stores and what the customer really is asking for. Oh, federal regulations changed dramatically over the years. They made things more difficult to produce. We are under USDA regulations, OSHA regulations, and EPA regulations. The big changes came through problems. The HACCP regulations that people are familiar with now did not always exist. There were some incidents in the meat industry. There was Jack in the Box E. coli situation across the United States. There were recalls because of listeria and listeriosis. USDA did not want to have companies having to recall products. It was their responsibility to make safe, quality foods. Out of those incidents came the HACCP program. It was originally, as your students probably know, it came out of NASA's desire to make sure what was sent up in space would not hurt astronauts. The same 7 steps that were used for NASA are used in every meat company in the United States right now. As far as OSHA is concerned, there was a lot of, let me go back and talk about what happened in 1984. In Bhopal, India, there was Union Carbide had a subsidiary that leaked 42 tons of a gas that instantly killed about 2,000 people, and another 200,000 became ill because of that leak. Since then, they put in the Right to Know Act, where every company, every manufacturer has to have the MSD, what originally were MSDS sheets, in the building so that any employee at any time could look at what chemicals that company is producing. As far as EPA, in the late 70s and 80s, there were no restrictions on a lot of what companies could put back into the environment. The Great Lakes were becoming a sewer. Lake Erie was probably the worst of all the Great Lakes, and that, they said, is just a dead lake now. At one time, there was a small section of Lake Erie that caught fire, and when Congress looked at that, they said things have to get cleaned up. During the Carter administration, the Superfund Act was passed to clean up areas such as Love Canal, where all kinds of pesticides leaked into the soil of a community. So the bottom line is that while USDA, OSHA, and EPA regulations are difficult to work with, the result is definitely safer foods. In the workplace, there are machine guards that never were on machines in the 60s. Machines are manufactured safer. In the environment, companies can't do just what they want because it's easy to dump something. There are tests that have to be done on wastewater that the companies put into the waste stream. On the positive side, there are a lot of opportunities for those that are interested in culinology and food science, especially in the Chicagoland area. There are a lot of food manufacturers. So opportunities are there, and for different aspects of a food manufacturing company. On the negative side, climate change, sustainability, and the proliferation of false information about foods are challenges that this next generation is going to have to face. During the pandemic, there were a lot of issues in the food industry that the pandemic just exacerbated problems that were already there. One was number of employees and employee retention. It was difficult to find those that want to work in some of the areas that you have to work with in a food company. They can be cold, they can be hot. Storage areas could be 10 degrees below zero. Smokehouse areas could be 100 degrees every day with humidity. The COVID crisis made it so much worse. The other problem with COVID that I think everyone is aware of, logistics became a big problem. Getting meat in, finding products that may have come from overseas that you could no longer get, that you had to find a substitute for, and meeting deadlines became a nightmare. As far as new products, there were no new products being developed during COVID that I'm aware of. Everything that was in the pipeline stopped. There were no meetings with customers about what the next line of products should be. Once things loosened up, that pipeline was filled. I was fortunate enough to work for a company that liked to send people to school. They like to have employees trained, and I would definitely recommend taking advantage of whatever company you work for, any opportunities that they present for further education. And if they do not have those available, I would highly recommend also that you find places that you can advance your career. IFT is a wonderful organization. I was a member for 38 years.
What is IFT?
Institute of Food Technologists. Research Chefs Association is another organization. I was not a member of that, but I did get their magazine because it was very informative. I also had gone to at least one of their conferences just to learn more about what they do. I was also a member of SQC, Society for Quality Control. If you're involved in any aspect of quality control, I think that definitely is the organization you want to be involved in. I have two certifications that I'm very proud of. First one is a CQE, Certified Quality Engineer. That involved 4 different classes, several years experience in the quality field, and then a 5-hour exam. The other certification I have is a certified food scientist. Again, that involved years of experience, a degree in food science, and at the time I got that certification, they did not have a test, but I believe now that there is a test involved in those certifications really helped not only what I had to do at Carl Buddig, but also it gave me an opportunity to meet so many other people in the same industry or like industries in order to talk about best practices. And I would, again, just highly recommend being involved in those organizations. I enjoyed my 38 years working in the food industry. I enjoyed the people. I enjoyed the challenges. There is some anxiety about meeting deadlines. There is disappointment that maybe the product that you produced someone else didn't like and they're not going to purchase it. I think what you're doing at COD every day is preparing you well for a job in the food industry. Are you showing up to class on time? You have to show up at work on time. Are you prepared when you come to class? You have to be prepared when you go to a meeting. During a meeting, you may not have to know everything that's going on, but you have to be engaged. If someone asks you a question, answer to the best of your ability. If you don't know the answer, you have resources now that you can find the answer. Some of the organizations that we just talked about, they have plenty of journals, journal articles. I never had the internet. You have the internet. You have Google. So use those resources. Bringing a passion to what you do, I think, is very important. And this background, the courses that you have here, are going to lead you towards success.